What if I told you that everything you thought about self-growth is wrong? You've been following advice, setting goals, and chasing success, but it's not working. Here's why. Most of us spend years trying to build confidence, avoid failure, and search for signs before taking action. But what if the real answers are hidden in unexpected places? I've uncovered 50 life-changing insights that have nothing to do with the usual self-help tricks. These aren't just tips, they're hard-learned truths that turn everything we know on its head. In this video, I'll reveal insights that change my life and could change yours too. We'll go beyond the basics. No, just stay positive advice here. These are deep, sometimes uncomfortable truths that can shift your perspective on confidence, relationships, resilience, and so much more. Stay with me, and I'll show you exactly how each one can transform the way you approach life. 1. Confidence comes from keeping commitments. I've learned that confidence is less about what I look like or how others see me, and more about whether I can trust myself. Each time I make a promise to myself, even something small like I'll get up at 6 a.m., I have a choice to follow through or to let it slide. When I follow through, even on these tiny promises, I feel stronger, more capable. It's as if my confidence builds layer by layer, growing out of every commitment I keep. I've realized that self-trust isn't something that just appears. It's something I have to earn daily. There have been times when I've let myself down, and it's remarkable how quickly confidence fades. Maybe I told myself I'd hit the gym 3 times this week, but by Friday, I made excuses. Each broken promise left a little dent in my self-respect. These experiences taught me that the commitments I make to myself are more valuable than anything external. I could win compliments, success, and recognition, but if I'm not honoring my own word, none of that really builds true confidence. Confidence, I've come to see, isn't about being perfect or fearless. It's about being reliable to myself. So I started small, setting realistic goals I knew I could meet, and building from there. Now I find myself setting bigger, more exciting goals, knowing that I have the strength to see them through. Each commitment kept is a quiet victory, a reminder that I can trust myself no matter what life throws my way. 2. Seek problems. Don't avoid them. I used to be a champion problem avoider. If there was a way to sidestep a challenge or a tricky situation, I'd find it. At first, this approach felt like it kept my life running smoothly. No big disruptions, no uncomfortable confrontations. But gradually, I noticed something unsettling. Without challenges, I wasn't growing. I was staying within the boundaries of what I already knew and could handle. The problem with that was, I'd reached a plateau. I wasn't stretching myself, and that lack of growth started to feel like stagnation. One day, I decided to face a small problem head-on, a work project that had intimidated me for months. Instead of dodging the responsibility, I dove in, learning as I went, even when it felt messy. I made mistakes, but I kept pushing forward. When I finally completed the project, I felt a surge of pride. It wasn't perfect, but I'd done it, and I could feel that my confidence had grown just by confronting the challenge. That experience shifted my entire perspective on problems. Since then, I've tried to see problems not as roadblocks, but as invitations to grow. Now, when I encounter a challenge, I remind myself that overcoming it will make me stronger and wiser. It's not always easy, and sometimes I still feel tempted to run. But I know that if I avoid the problem, I'll be missing out on growth. Every problem has something valuable to teach me, and facing them head-on has made me more resilient, adaptable, and open to change. I'm realizing that growth rarely happens in my comfort zone, and while that can be uncomfortable, it's also exhilarating. Seeking out problems to solve has become my way of embracing life's opportunities for growth. 3. Dedicate a decade, not a day. I used to be obsessed with instant results. Whether it was fitness, career goals, or even learning new skills, I'd go all in for a few days or weeks, expecting to see drastic changes. When things didn't shift as quickly as I'd hoped, I'd get frustrated and quit. It felt like I was putting in so much effort with nothing to show for it, and that mentality kept me on a cycle of short bursts and burnouts. But one day, I came across the idea of dedicating a decade to my goals rather than just a day or a week. At first, it seemed excessive. Why would I need to think that far ahead? But when I tried this approach, I felt a massive weight lift off my shoulders. Suddenly, I wasn't in a hurry. I had time to make mistakes, adjust, and keep moving forward without the pressure to succeed immediately. I started small, focusing on daily habits rather than immediate results. I knew I didn't need to make drastic changes overnight. Embracing this long-term view changed everything. Instead of getting disheartened by small setbacks, I began to see them as part of the process. I learned that true transformation requires patience, and progress isn't always visible day by day. When I look back over the months and years, though, I can see how far I've come. Now I remind myself to be patient and consistent, trusting that every small effort compounds over time. This shift in mindset has allowed me to pursue my goals without the constant feeling of urgency. Dedicating myself for the long haul has taught me that time, persistence, and consistency can create powerful results, far beyond what any quick fix could ever accomplish. 4. Don't dim your light. For a long time, I tried to keep parts of myself hidden. I was cautious about celebrating my achievements or expressing my dreams around others, fearing that I'd make them uncomfortable or come across as arrogant. So, I learned to downplay my strengths and stay quiet about my goals, thinking it was better to blend in. I convinced myself that keeping a low profile was a way of staying humble, but over time, I started feeling unfulfilled and invisible in my own life. One day, I realized that by dimming my light, I was betraying myself. I wasn't being honest with who I was or who I wanted to become. I was shrinking myself to fit into spaces where I wasn't celebrated or encouraged. This self-censorship wasn't protecting anyone's feelings. It was only holding me back from my potential and preventing others from seeing the real me. I finally asked myself, what's wrong with shining my light? I want to be proud of my growth and my dreams without feeling guilty. Since then, I've decided to embrace my light fully. I share my aspirations and my successes openly, knowing that those who truly care about me will support me. I've also noticed that when I'm unapologetically myself, I attract people who resonate with my energy and who inspire me to grow even further. My light, I've come to realize, isn't meant to dim. It's meant to shine as a reminder to myself, and maybe even to others, that it's okay to take up space in the world. Choosing to live fully and shine has been liberating. I no longer hide parts of myself for anyone's comfort. I embrace who I am, knowing that those meant to be in my life will stay, and those who aren't can look elsewhere. My light is my gift to the world, and I'm no longer afraid to let it shine. 5. Only ask advice from people who've been there. I used to ask advice from just about anyone willing to listen. Friends, family, even acquaintances who seemed to have it together. I thought more opinions would mean better guidance, But I quickly realized that too many conflicting perspectives left me feeling overwhelmed and unsure of which direction to take. Even worse, I sometimes got advice from people who hadn't achieved the goals I was aiming for, and that often led me down paths that didn't align with my true intentions. After some reflection, I realized that seeking advice is like choosing a map for a journey. I need to pick one that's already been traveled by someone who's reached the destination I want to go to. If I'm looking to build a business, I should ask advice from successful entrepreneurs, not people who've never taken that risk. The same goes for other areas of life: health, relationships, personal growth. Only those who have walked the path can truly understand its nuances and offer insights based on real experience. Now, I'm more selective with whose advice I seek. I focus on finding mentors or people who've achieved what I aspire to achieve. I've also learned that it's okay to ignore well-meaning advice from people who don't fully understand my goals. This approach has not only saved me time, but has also given me more confidence in my choices. When I ask advice now, I feel assured that I'm getting insights from someone who understands my journey and can guide me effectively. I trust my path more and feel grounded in my decisions, knowing I'm following guidance that's aligned with my goals. 6. Keep a journal. I used to think journaling was just for recording the big events or accomplishments in life. I never thought about using it as a tool for self-reflection or emotional processing. But one day, feeling overwhelmed and unable to make sense of my thoughts, I decided to give journaling a try. I opened a notebook and just started writing everything that was on my mind. No filter, no judgment. By the time I finished, I felt lighter, as if I had cleared space in my mind. That experience showed me that journaling could be more than just a record of life. It could be a powerful tool for self-understanding. Since then, I've made journaling a regular part of my routine. I use it to set goals, reflect on my experiences, and process emotions that I don't always feel comfortable sharing with others. It's a private space where I can be completely honest with myself. I write about my fears, my dreams, and my progress, no matter how small. Some days my entries are long and detailed. Other days, they're just a few lines. But each entry helps me track my growth, see patterns in my thinking, and clarify what I truly want in life. Journaling has taught me the value of self-reflection. I can look back on past entries and see how far I've come, recognize the challenges I've overcome, and notice areas where I still want to grow. It's a grounding practice that reminds me of my journey and keeps me connected to my goals. Now my journal is a trusted companion, a safe space that encourages me to be honest, intentional, and constantly evolving. 7. Normalize leaving people in their reality. There was a time when I would get so frustrated with people who didn't see things the way I did. Whether it was a friend making questionable choices or a family member stuck in a negative cycle, I felt compelled to help them see things my way. I'd give advice, try to fix things, and feel frustrated when they didn't change. But over time, I realized something important. I was spending too much energy trying to change others instead of focusing on my own growth. Now, I understand that everyone has their own reality, shaped by experiences, beliefs, and choices. I've learned to respect that, even if I don't agree with it. Instead of feeling responsible for others' choices, I'm learning to let people be exactly who they are, where they are. This shift has been freeing. It doesn't mean I don't care about them, but it does mean I can set boundaries and focus on my own path. Letting go of the urge to change people has allowed me to experience more peace in my relationships. I can support loved ones without feeling burdened by their decisions, and I can focus on my own growth without getting distracted by others' lives. This doesn't mean I don't offer advice when asked, but I no longer try to force change. By normalizing the idea that people are on their own journeys, I've learned to respect both their process and my own. This acceptance has brought me a sense of freedom and clarity that I didn't know I needed. 8. Take on as much responsibility as you can. Responsibility used to feel like a burden. I thought that the more I took on, the more stressful life would become. But as I started accepting new challenges, I realized something interesting. Responsibility actually made me stronger. Each time I took on something new, whether it was a project at work or a commitment in my personal life, I felt a little more capable. I began to understand that responsibility isn't about adding weight. It's about building capacity. Taking on responsibility has been one of the most effective ways for me to grow. I've learned new skills, discovered strengths I didn't know I had, and developed a resilience that serves me in every area of my life. It's not always easy, and sometimes it does feel overwhelming, but each challenge is an opportunity to expand my limits. I used to think of responsibility as something I had to carry alone, but I've learned that asking for help and delegating when possible is part of handling responsibility wisely. Now, I embrace responsibility as a tool for growth. I don't take on everything that comes my way, but I look for opportunities where I can make a meaningful impact. Each commitment I accept is a chance to strengthen my skills, build my character, and make a difference in the lives of others. The more I lean into responsibility, the more confident I feel in my ability to handle whatever comes next. Responsibility, I've come to realize, is a privilege and an avenue to grow into my best self. 9. Life is a mirror, not a window. For the longest time, I viewed life as a window, something I looked out of to see other people's actions, behaviors, and flaws. I'd catch myself judging others, wondering why they acted in certain ways, or getting frustrated with situations that didn't go my way. But eventually, I realized that life is more like a mirror than a window. The things I notice in others often reflect my own insecurities, fears, and unresolved issues. This realization wasn't easy to accept. It felt uncomfortable to think that the frustration I felt toward others might actually be a sign of something within myself. But as I started looking inward, I began to see the truth in it. If I felt irritated by someone's behavior, I asked myself, is this something I struggle with too? More often than not, the answer was yes. This self-reflection has helped me approach situations with more empathy and less judgment. Viewing life as a mirror has been transformative. Instead of blaming others or external situations, I try to focus on what I can learn about myself from each experience. If I'm struggling with someone's behavior, I ask myself what this interaction is teaching me about my own growth. This shift has made me more compassionate and more accountable. Life constantly reflects my inner state, and by paying attention to these reflections, I can work on becoming the person I want to be. It's a challenging but rewarding practice that keeps me focused on self-improvement. 10. Surround yourself with supportive people. I used to think that I could achieve everything on my own, regardless of who was around me. But as I started setting bigger goals, I realized how much my environment mattered. I noticed that the people I spent the most time with had a significant impact on my motivation, mindset, and even my self-belief. Some friends encouraged me and celebrated my wins, while others made subtle comments that left me doubting myself. That's when I knew I had to be more intentional about who I let into my circle. I began seeking out people who uplifted me, those who had their own goals, who believed in growth, and who genuinely wanted to see me succeed. This didn't mean I cut everyone out of my life, but I did start spending more time with those who inspired me. It made a noticeable difference. With supportive friends around, I felt more motivated and more confident in my goals. I realized that when you're surrounded by the right people, their positivity and ambition rub off on you. Having a supportive circle isn't just about encouragement, it's also about accountability. My friends challenge me when I'm slacking and remind me of my potential when I doubt myself. I've learned that a strong support system is a powerful resource. They are the ones who remind me of my worth and push me to keep going, even when things get tough. Now, I prioritize relationships that energize me and let go of those that drain me. Surrounding myself with supportive people has been one of the best decisions for my personal and professional growth. 11. Put your own mask on first. For a long time, I thought taking care of myself was selfish. I'd put everyone else's needs before my own, thinking it was the right thing to do. But over time, I found myself running on empty, mentally and physically drained. I was trying to be everything for everyone else, but I wasn't showing up for myself. Then one day I heard the phrase, "Put your own mask on first," like in an airplane emergency, and it clicked. How can I truly be there for others if I'm not taking care of myself? Learning to prioritize my own needs was a shift. I started small, taking breaks when I felt overwhelmed, setting aside time each day just for me, and learning to say no without feeling guilty. At first, it felt strange, even uncomfortable, to put myself first. But soon I noticed a difference. I was more energized, more present, and less resentful because I wasn't constantly running on empty. Taking care of myself wasn't selfish, it was necessary. Now I make self-care a priority, understanding that it's not just about relaxation, but about recharging my energy so I can genuinely be there for others. I've learned that giving from a place of wholeness is far more impactful than giving from a place of depletion. Putting my own mask on first has allowed me to show up as the best version of myself for the people I care about. I can support others with genuine compassion because I've taken care of my own well-being first. 12. Never too late to change. There were times I felt stuck in life, convinced it was too late to make a big change. Whether it was career goals, personal habits, or learning something new, I had this limiting belief that the opportunity had passed. But then, I started noticing stories of people who transformed their lives at all ages. Some started businesses in their 40s, others went back to school in their 60s. I began to realize that change doesn't come with an expiration date. When I finally embraced this mindset, I felt a newfound freedom. I stopped holding myself back with the excuse of, "It's too late." Instead, I started asking, "What's stopping me?" I took my first steps toward the changes I wanted, and it was empowering. At first, progress was slow and self-doubt crept in, but I reminded myself that every day is a chance to start anew. Each small step built on the last, and eventually I looked back and realized I'd made real progress. Now, whenever I feel too late to pursue a dream or change a habit, I remind myself that life is always moving forward, and it's never too late to jump on board. I've learned to embrace the journey at my own pace, knowing that change can happen at any stage. The best time to start is now, and I'm no longer waiting for the perfect time or feeling constrained by my past decisions. I have the power to change at any moment, and that realization is both liberating and empowering. 13. Treat your body like gold. For years I took my health for granted. I thought I could eat whatever I wanted, stay up late and skip exercise, assuming my body would just keep up. But eventually I began feeling the effects: low energy, frequent fatigue, and just an overall sense of sluggishness. It dawned on me that I was neglecting the one thing that enables me to live my life fully: my body. I realized that treating my body with care wasn't just about looking good. It was about feeling good and having the energy to pursue my dreams. I started paying attention to what I put in my body, making small changes like drinking more water, eating more whole foods, and prioritizing sleep. At first, it felt like an effort, but the positive effects were undeniable. My energy improved, my mood lifted, and I felt more present in my daily life. I began to see my body as a valuable asset that needed nurturing, not as something that could be neglected and taken for granted. Now, I treat my body like gold. I prioritize movement, make conscious food choices, and value rest just as much as productivity. This shift has been transformative. I have the energy and clarity to take on new challenges, and I feel more aligned with my goals because I'm taking care of the vessel that carries me through life. Treating my body with respect has reminded me that health isn't a chore. It's an investment in the quality of my life. And there's nothing more empowering than feeling strong, capable, and ready for whatever life brings. 14. Start investing early. For the longest time, I thought investing was something you did when you were older or had a lot of money. I'd put it off, thinking I'd get to it one day. But the more I learned about finances, the more I realized that time is one of the biggest advantages in investing. Starting early, even with a small amount, allows my money to grow exponentially over the years. That was a powerful realization. When I finally started investing, I didn't have a lot to contribute, but I took the leap. I set up a small automatic contribution to a fund, and though it felt like a minor step, I was amazed at how quickly it added up. Month after month, I could see the progress, and it gave me a sense of security and control over my financial future. The earlier I started, the more time my investments had to grow, and that's a huge advantage I'm grateful to have. Now, I'm passionate about financial literacy, and I encourage others to start investing as soon as possible, even if it's just a small amount. Watching my savings grow over time has taught me that investing isn't about having a huge sum. It's about being consistent and patient. I feel more empowered knowing that I'm preparing for my future, and that each small investment today will bring me greater freedom and security down the road. Starting early was one of the best decisions I've made, and I'm glad I didn't wait for the perfect time to begin. 15. Assume positive intent. I used to get defensive quickly. If someone said something that felt critical or came across the wrong way, I'd immediately assume they were being negative or trying to undermine me. It caused tension in my relationships and often left me feeling anxious or upset over things that might have been unintentional. But one day I read about assuming positive intent, the idea of giving people the benefit of the doubt, and I decided to give it a try. The next time a friend made a comment that felt off, I paused and told myself, maybe they didn't mean it that way. Instead of reacting, I asked for clarification. To my surprise, The conversation went smoothly, and I realized I'd misinterpreted their words. That moment taught me that assuming positive intent can change the entire tone of an interaction. It allows me to stay calm and focus on understanding rather than reacting. Now, whenever I feel triggered by someone's words or actions, I remind myself to assume they have good intentions. This shift has improved my relationships and reduced my stress. I've found that most people aren't out to harm or criticize. They're just expressing themselves, and sometimes things get lost in communication. By assuming positive intent, I can approach situations with empathy and curiosity rather than defensiveness. It's made me a better listener and helped me build stronger connections. Plus, it's a lot more peaceful to give people the benefit of the doubt and focus on understanding instead of assuming the worst. 16. Don't blame others. I used to spend a lot of time pointing fingers. When things went wrong, it was easy to blame others or circumstances for my frustrations and setbacks. If something didn't work out, I'd think, well, if they hadn't done this, or if only the situation had been different. This mindset kept me stuck in a loop of resentment and powerlessness, because as long as I was blaming others, I wasn't taking responsibility for my role in my own life. One day I came across the idea that taking responsibility, even when it's uncomfortable, is the only way to reclaim control. I decided to try it. The next time something went wrong, instead of blaming someone else, I asked myself, what could I have done differently? It wasn't easy to look inward, but it made me feel surprisingly empowered. I realized that by focusing on what I could control, my actions, my reactions, my choices, I could actively improve my life instead of waiting for others to change. Now, I make a conscious effort to own my part in every situation, good or bad. I've learned that taking responsibility isn't about blaming myself. It's about learning and growing. When I stop pointing fingers, I free up energy that I can use to solve the problem, move forward, and make better choices next time. This mindset shift has given me a new sense of freedom and control over my life. I feel more capable and less like a victim of circumstance, knowing that I have the power to create change through my own actions. 17. Your new life will cost you your old one. This realization hit me hard. For a long time, I wanted to change my life, but wasn't willing to let go of my old habits and routines. I wanted the results without the sacrifices. I'd cling to my comfort zone, expecting transformation to happen without having to give anything up. But one day, I had to face the truth. If I wanted a new life, I had to be willing to let go of the old one. The habits, the mindsets, and even some relationships that no longer aligned with my vision had to go. Letting go was hard. I had to stop spending time with people who weren't on the same path and stop wasting time on distractions that didn't support my goals. It felt lonely and uncomfortable at first, but I knew I had to make room for the new life I wanted. I focused on creating new habits, surrounding myself with people who inspired me, and setting boundaries that protected my energy. Slowly, I began to see the results. My old life was fading, and I was stepping into a new, more fulfilling one. Now, I embrace the idea that growth requires letting go. It's no longer something I fear, but something I see as necessary. When I feel resistance to change, I remind myself that my new life won't fit if I'm still holding on to my old ways. I've learned to trust the process of releasing what no longer serves me. The more I let go, the more space I create for new opportunities, experiences, and growth. My new life is worth the sacrifices, and I'm willing to keep evolving to reach my fullest potential. 18. Take risks on real-life experiences, not your phone. I used to spend hours scrolling through social media, watching other people's lives unfold. It was like I was living through a screen, missing out on real experiences because I was too busy watching others have them. The endless scrolling left me feeling empty and envious, wondering why my life didn't look as exciting as the images on my feed. But then I realized I was giving all my time and energy to my phone instead of my own life. So I decided to take a risk. I started putting my phone down and looking for real-world experiences. I signed up for classes, explored new places, and tried things I'd been curious about for ages. The first few times, I felt awkward, even anxious. But with each new experience, I felt more alive. I was creating memories, not just watching someone else's highlight reel. The more I invested in real life, the less I felt the need to check my phone constantly. I realized that true fulfillment comes from being present in my own life, not from comparing myself to others online. Now, I prioritize experiences that nourish me and connect me to the world around me. I still use my phone, but it's no longer my main source of entertainment or validation. I've found that life outside the screen is richer and more rewarding than anything I could scroll through. Taking risks in real life has helped me grow, connect, and discover new parts of myself that I didn't even know existed. I'm learning to value my own life over the digital distractions and focus on living a story worth telling. 19. Respect comes from admiration, not fear. There was a time when I thought that to be respected, I needed to be firm, unyielding, and at times intimidating. I believed that people respected those who showed authority, and I tried to act in ways that projected strength. But this approach often left me feeling isolated and disconnected from others. People may have complied, but it didn't feel like genuine respect. It felt like they were afraid of disappointing me or facing my disapproval. It took time, but I eventually learned that true respect comes from admiration, not fear. The people I respected most weren't those who intimidated me. They were those who inspired me. They led by example, showed kindness, and treated others with empathy. They didn't demand respect. They earned it by being people of integrity, character, and humility. This realization shifted how I approached my own relationships. I started focusing on building respect through trust and kindness rather than authority. Now, I try to lead with empathy and understanding. I aim to inspire others by being authentic, dependable, and compassionate, rather than trying to command respect through authority. The connections I build are stronger and more genuine. People respond to me not out of fear, but because they see me as someone they can trust and admire. Respect rooted in admiration has a powerful, lasting effect, and it creates bonds that are much deeper and more meaningful than any form of intimidation ever could. 20. Tell people about themselves. I used to assume that people already knew their strengths, and I rarely gave compliments or pointed out their positive qualities. But one day, a friend told me how much they appreciated a small compliment I'd given them months earlier. It was something I barely remembered saying, yet it had made a lasting impact on them. That's when I realized how powerful it is to remind people of their strengths and qualities. Often, they don't see themselves the way others do, and a few kind words can lift them up in ways we may never understand. Since then, I've made it a point to tell people what I admire about them. I'll acknowledge a friend's resilience, a colleague's creativity, or a family member's kindness. I don't wait for a special occasion or assume they already know. It's amazing to see how people light up when they're reminded of their unique qualities. Sometimes I even notice that it encourages them to lean into those strengths even more. This practice has not only deepened my relationships, but has also made me more appreciative and observant. I find myself looking for the good in others, and it feels good to uplift them. Now, I understand that telling people about themselves isn't just a nice gesture. It's a gift that can change their day, their perspective, or even their lives. Everyone deserves to be seen and valued, and I'm grateful to be able to offer that reminder whenever I can. It's a simple habit that brings a lot of positivity and connection into my life and the lives of others. Avoid gossip and drama. For a long time, I found myself drawn into gossip and drama without even realizing it. Whether it was at work, with friends, or even online, I'd get pulled into conversations about other people's lives, judging or speculating about their choices. It felt harmless at first, even entertaining, but over time, I noticed it had a negative effect on my mood and mindset. I was spending energy on things that didn't matter and had no impact on my own life. I started feeling drained and more focused on negativity than positivity. One day, I decided to step back and take a break from these kinds of conversations. At first, it felt like I was missing out, but soon I noticed a shift. My mind felt clearer, and I had more energy to focus on things that genuinely mattered to me: my goals, my relationships, my personal growth. I realized that when I avoided gossip and drama, I felt lighter and more at peace with myself. I no longer carried the weight of judging others, and I was free from the negativity that gossip breeds. Now, I consciously choose conversations that are positive, meaningful, and aligned with my values. I focus on creation, on building something worthwhile in my life, rather than tearing others down. This shift has not only improved my mindset, but has also attracted more like-minded people into my life. I feel happier, more grounded, and more focused on what truly matters. Avoiding gossip and drama has allowed me to cultivate a sense of peace and purpose, and I'm grateful for the clarity and positivity it brings. 22. Improving yourself. Daily is the best addiction. For a while I chased different distractions to escape boredom: social media, television, even shopping. It filled the time but left me feeling empty afterward. Then I decided to try something different, making self-improvement my daily focus. At first it was simple things like reading a few pages of a book, practicing mindfulness, or working out. But as I kept at it, I started to crave this feeling of growth. It became a positive addiction, one where every day I aimed to be just a little better than I was yesterday. This focus on self-improvement transformed my perspective on life. I started setting goals, tracking my progress, and celebrating my wins, no matter how small. I saw how these tiny daily improvements built up over time, creating real, noticeable change in my life. I became more confident, more capable, and more resilient. I stopped looking for quick fixes or external validation because I was already fulfilled by the progress I was making internally. Now, self-improvement is a core part of my life. Each day, I look forward to learning something new, practicing a skill, or working on a personal goal. This daily dedication to growth brings purpose to my routines and adds depth to my life. I'm proud of the person I'm becoming, and I'm excited to see where this journey of self-improvement will lead. Choosing to improve myself every day has been one of the best decisions I've ever made, and I can't imagine going back to a life without it. 23. Learn to say no. For years, I struggled with saying no. I'd say yes to everything: favors, invitations, projects, because I didn't want to disappoint anyone. I thought being helpful and accommodating was a good thing, but I soon realized it was costing me my time, energy, and, often, my peace of mind. I'd end up overwhelmed with little time left for myself or my priorities. I was stretching myself thin to please everyone else, and it was exhausting. One day, I decided to set boundaries and start saying no to things that didn't align with my goals or well-being. At first, it was difficult. I felt guilty and worried about how others would react. But gradually, I realized that every no was actually a yes to something more meaningful. My own time, my own peace, my own priorities. Saying no didn't make me selfish. It made me intentional about where I directed my energy. Now I see the power of saying no. I'm more focused, more in control, and much less stressed. I've learned that setting boundaries isn't about shutting people out. It's about honoring myself. When I say no to distractions, I'm able to give my best to the things that truly matter. It's a liberating feeling, and it has allowed me to live a more balanced, fulfilling life. I've come to understand that no is a complete sentence, and I'm grateful for the freedom it brings. 24. Be cautious with debt. In my early years, I didn't think twice about debt. It seemed like everyone had it, and it felt like an easy way to get what I wanted without having to wait. I'd use credit for things I didn't necessarily need, thinking I could pay it off later. But as the debt piled up, I began to feel the weight of it. The interest accumulated, the payments grew, and I realized that what once felt like freedom was now a burden that limited my choices. I decided to educate myself on finances and realized that not all debt is equal. There's good debt that can be an investment in my future, like a mortgage or student loan, and there's bad debt, like consumer debt, on things that don't appreciate in value. This knowledge changed the way I approached spending and borrowing. I made a plan to pay off my consumer debt, focusing on living within my means and saving for things I truly needed or wanted. Now, I approach debt with caution and intention. I no longer use credit as an extension of my income, but as a tool for building a stable future. I've learned the importance of living below my means and saving for what matters. This shift has given me more financial freedom and peace of mind. I feel more in control of my life, knowing that I'm not weighed down by unnecessary debt. Being cautious with debt has taught me that true freedom comes from financial discipline, not from instant gratification. 25. Quality over quantity in friendships. There was a time when I thought the more friends I had, the better. I'd spread myself thin trying to maintain a large social circle, thinking it was a sign of popularity or success. But over time, I noticed that many of these friendships were surface level. I didn't feel truly connected or supported. I found myself feeling lonely even when surrounded by people, because I lacked genuine, meaningful connections. Then I started focusing on the quality of my friendships rather than the quantity. I invested more time and energy into the people who truly mattered, the ones who were there for me during tough times and who celebrated my wins as if they were their own. I made an effort to deepen these connections, to show up for my friends and let them show up for me. I stopped worrying about having a large circle and started valuing a smaller, more intimate group of friends who genuinely cared. This shift has brought so much fulfillment into my life. I feel supported, understood, and deeply connected to the people I surround myself with. I no longer measure friendship by numbers, but by the depth of the connection and the mutual support we offer each other. Quality over quantity has become my guiding principle, and it has made my relationships richer and more meaningful. I'm grateful for the friends who bring joy, strength, and love into my life. and I wouldn't trade them for anything. 26. Self-care. First, for years I thought self-care was a luxury, something I'd get around to when everything else was done, when everyone else was taken care of, and when there was nothing left to do. But that time rarely came, and I found myself exhausted, stressed, and barely hanging on. I was so focused on making sure everyone else was okay that I neglected my own needs. Eventually, I hit a breaking point and realized that I couldn't keep giving from an empty cup. I started making self-care a priority, even if it felt selfish at first. I carved out time each day to do something for myself, whether it was a few minutes of meditation, a walk outside, or reading a book. I noticed that as I took better care of myself, I had more energy, patience, and focus to give to others. Self-care wasn't selfish. It was necessary for me to show up as the best version of myself in every area of my life. Now, I see self-care as the foundation of everything I do. It's not just about bubble baths or treats. It's about nourishing my mind, body, and spirit so I can handle life's demands with resilience and grace. Putting self-care first has made me a better friend, partner, and professional. I've learned that taking care of myself isn't about indulgence. It's about giving myself the tools I need to thrive. When I'm at my best, I can give my best. And that's a gift not only to myself, but to everyone around me. 27. Fear gives bad advice. Fear used to be a constant presence in my decision-making. It would creep in whenever I was on the edge of something new or challenging, whispering doubts and worst-case scenarios. I listened to it, thinking it was protecting me from failure or embarrassment. But over time, I realized that fear wasn't helping me. It was holding me back. The more I listened to fear, the more opportunities I missed, the more dreams I put on hold, and the smaller my life became. One day, I decided to stop letting fear call the shots. I started questioning it, asking, is this fear real, or is it just my mind trying to keep me comfortable? More often than not, I found that fear was based on assumptions or exaggerated possibilities rather than actual threats. I began to notice that when I pushed past my fears, I experienced growth, excitement, and fulfillment. Fear had been limiting my life, and I was ready to break free. Now, I acknowledge fear when it arises, but I don't let it drive my decisions. I remind myself that fear isn't always rational, and it's okay to feel it while still moving forward. I've learned that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's taking action in spite of it. Embracing this mindset has allowed me to step into new experiences, take risks, and live a life that's full rather than safe. Fear may still be there, but now I see it for what it is. A poor advisor that I no longer take seriously. 28. Be willing to be misunderstood. For a long time, I sought validation in everything I did. I wanted people to understand my choices, my goals, and my dreams. I thought that if I explained myself enough, others would see things my way. But the more I tried to get people to understand me, the more frustrated I became. Not everyone shared my perspective or my vision, and their doubts and criticisms began to weigh on me. I realized that I was holding myself back, fearing their misunderstanding more than I valued my own path. That's when I learned to accept that being misunderstood is often part of pursuing something unique or ambitious. I stopped explaining myself to everyone and started focusing on what mattered to me. Not everyone would get it, and that was okay. I had to be willing to stand firm in my choices, even if others didn't agree or understand. This shift gave me a newfound sense of freedom and confidence. I didn't need approval from everyone around me. I just needed to believe in myself. Now, I embrace being misunderstood as a sign that I'm following my own path, not someone else's. I've learned that staying true to myself is more important than gaining others' approval. This perspective has made me stronger and more resilient, allowing me to pursue my dreams without fear of judgment. Being willing to be misunderstood has taught me the value of self-acceptance and the power of listening to my own voice, regardless of the noise around me. 29. Get rid of all your vices. For a long time, I held on to certain vices, small habits that I knew weren't good for me, but felt harmless enough. Maybe it was procrastination, binge-watching shows, or relying on unhealthy foods for comfort. These habits felt like small indulgences, a way to escape or unwind. But over time, I noticed they were taking a toll. They were distractions that kept me from facing reality, from reaching my goals, and from living my best life. Each vice, however small, was holding me back in subtle but powerful ways. One day, I decided to take a closer look at these habits and ask myself, is this really helping me? The answer was almost always no. I started letting go of one vice at a time, replacing it with healthier habits that aligned with the life I wanted to build. At first, it was challenging. I missed the comfort of my old routines. But as I let go of these vices, I felt lighter, more focused, and more in control of my life. Now, I make a conscious effort to live free from vices that drain my energy and limit my potential. I'm not perfect, but I'm committed to replacing old habits with ones that nurture my growth and well-being. Getting rid of my vices has taught me that true freedom comes from discipline, and that the small sacrifices I make today create space for a more fulfilling tomorrow. Letting go of what doesn't serve me has allowed me to step into a life that feels aligned, purposeful, and genuinely satisfying. 30. Prioritize a regular sleep schedule. For a long time, I viewed sleep as something that could be sacrificed for productivity. I'd stay up late, thinking I could get more done, only to wake up feeling exhausted and dragging through the day. My productivity suffered, my mood was low, and my health started to take a hit. It became clear that skimping on sleep wasn't helping me. It was actually holding me back. I realized that prioritizing sleep wasn't a luxury. It was a necessity for my well-being and success. So, I made the commitment to prioritize a regular sleep schedule. I set a consistent bedtime and focused on creating a relaxing evening routine to help me wind down. At first, it was difficult to break old habits, but the benefits were undeniable. With a full night's sleep, I woke up feeling refreshed, focused, and ready to tackle my day. My energy levels were more stable, my productivity improved, and I felt better both mentally and physically. Now, I see sleep as a non-negotiable part of my self-care routine. It's the foundation of my health, my energy, and my ability to show up fully each day. Prioritizing sleep has taught me that rest isn't a weakness. It's a strength that fuels everything else in my life. By committing to a regular sleep schedule, I've gained a renewed sense of vitality and balance. I'm no longer sacrificing my well-being for temporary productivity. Instead, I'm investing in rest as a way to create lasting success and happiness. 31. Learn the art of persuasion. I used to think persuasion was just about getting others to agree with me. I'd approach conversations with a goal of convincing people that my perspective was right, but it rarely worked out the way I wanted. Often I ended up frustrated, wondering why others couldn't see things my way. It wasn't until I began to study persuasion as an art, focusing on understanding others and meeting them where they were, that I realized persuasion isn't about pushing my ideas, but about creating mutual understanding and trust. When I began approaching conversations with genuine curiosity, I noticed a change. Instead of trying to win, I started listening more, asking questions, and trying to see things from the other person's perspective. This shift helped me connect more deeply, and I found that people were more open to hearing my thoughts when they felt respected and understood. Persuasion became less about making my case and more about guiding people toward common ground. Now, I see persuasion as a skill that requires empathy, patience, and respect. It's about building relationships, not just arguments. I've learned that when I focus on connecting and understanding, people are naturally more receptive to my ideas. This approach has improved my relationships, my professional life, and my confidence. I no longer view persuasion as a way to control conversations, but as a way to foster cooperation, collaboration, and positive change. The art of persuasion has taught me the power of kindness and the importance of listening, and it's made me a better communicator in every area of my life. 32. Embrace failure as learning. I used to fear failure like it was the worst thing that could happen. If I failed at something, I'd beat myself up, feeling embarrassed and defeated. I'd go over my mistakes, wondering why I couldn't get it right the first time. But after experiencing several setbacks, I began to see that failure was actually one of my greatest teachers. Each time I failed, I learned something new about myself, about what didn't work, and about how to improve. Embracing failure didn't come naturally. I had to change my mindset and start seeing mistakes as stepping stones rather than dead ends. Instead of asking, "Why did this go wrong?" I started asking, "What can I learn from this?" This simple shift transformed how I approached challenges. I became less afraid of taking risks and more willing to try things, knowing that even if I failed, I'd come out stronger and wiser. Now, I view failure as an essential part of growth. I see each setback as an opportunity to refine my approach and gain new insights. I no longer let failure define me. Instead, I let it guide me toward a better path. Embracing failure as learning has made me more resilient, more open to challenges, and more optimistic about my journey. It's given me the freedom to pursue my goals with courage, knowing that every failure is simply a lesson in disguise. 33. The word no is a complete sentence. For most of my life, I felt obligated to explain every no I gave. If I couldn't attend an event, take on a project, or do a favor, I'd offer long-winded explanations to avoid disappointing anyone. But over time, I realized that constantly justifying my no was exhausting. It made me feel like I owed people something simply for setting boundaries. Then one day, I read that no is a complete sentence, and it changed everything. At first, it was hard to say no without explaining. I worried about coming across as rude or unhelpful, but the more I practiced, the more empowered I felt. I learned that I don't owe anyone a justification for protecting my time, energy, and priorities. Saying no without explanations allowed me to set clearer boundaries and focus on what truly mattered to me. I found that people respected my decisions more when I was direct and confident in my response. Now, I use no as a simple, powerful tool for setting boundaries. I no longer feel pressured to give reasons or apologies for my choices. This approach has given me the freedom to prioritize my needs and spend my time on things that align with my goals. I've learned that no isn't just a refusal. It's an affirmation of my values and my right to make choices that serve my well-being. Saying no confidently has strengthened my relationships and my self-respect, and I'm grateful for the clarity and empowerment it brings. 34. Stay humble by thinking of yourself less. Humility is something I've always admired, but it took me a while to understand what it really meant. For a long time I thought humility was about downplaying my achievements or not taking up too much space. I tried to avoid talking about my successes, thinking that was what made me humble. But over time, I learned that true humility isn't about minimizing myself. It's about thinking less about myself and more about how I can serve others. This shift in perspective has been transformative. I realized that humility isn't about hiding my strengths or achievements. It's about using them to make a positive impact. When I focus less on myself and more on how I can contribute, I feel more connected to the people around me. I'm less worried about how I'm perceived and more focused on doing meaningful work, supporting others, and making a difference. Humility has become less about my ego and more about my purpose. Now, I practice humility by thinking of myself less, not by minimizing my worth, but by focusing on how I can uplift others. This approach has brought me a sense of peace and fulfillment. I feel more grounded and genuinely grateful for the opportunities I have to make a positive impact. Staying humble by thinking of myself less has taught me that true strength lies in service, and that I can achieve more by putting others first while still valuing my own worth. 35. Have a primary aim for your life. For a long time, I felt like I was just going through the motions. I'd set goals here and there, but there was no overarching purpose guiding my decisions. I was busy, but felt like I was wandering without direction. Then I came across the concept of having a primary aim, a clear purpose or guiding vision for my life. I realized that I needed something bigger than individual goals, something that would give my life meaning and direction. Setting a primary aim took some deep reflection. I thought about what truly mattered to me, what kind of person I wanted to become, and how I wanted to impact the world. Gradually, I defined a vision that felt authentic and inspiring. With this aim in mind, I began making choices that aligned with my purpose. Decisions that once felt confusing became clearer, as I now had a guiding compass. Having a primary aim has given my life focus and motivation. It's not about having all the answers or a rigid plan. It's about having a sense of direction that helps me stay aligned with what truly matters. Now I feel more fulfilled and energized because I'm working towards something meaningful. My primary aim keeps me grounded and reminds me of the bigger picture, even during challenging times. This purpose has become a source of strength, guiding me forward with clarity and conviction. 36. Stop reading books. Start studying them. I used to read books at a rapid pace, moving from one to the next without giving myself time to truly absorb the lessons. I'd finish a book, feel inspired for a moment, and then quickly move on, forgetting much of what I'd just learned. Eventually, I realized that I wasn't getting as much value from books as I could. Reading was supposed to be enriching, but my approach wasn't allowing the knowledge to stick or make a real impact. So, I decided to try something different. Instead of racing through books, I'd study them. I'd take notes, reflect on the key points, and consider how each lesson could apply to my own life. I began rereading certain passages and even discussing the material with friends or colleagues. This approach transformed my reading experience. Books became more than just entertainment. They became tools for personal growth and sources of wisdom that I could carry with me long after I'd turned the last page. Now, I approach books as mentors rather than just stories. I don't rush to finish. Instead, I take my time to really internalize the lessons. Studying books this way has deepened my understanding and helped me apply the insights to my daily life. I find myself returning to certain books again and again, extracting new meanings each time. This practice has taught me that knowledge isn't about how much I consume. It's about how well I apply it. By studying books instead of just reading them, I'm able to turn knowledge into real, lasting change. 37. Teach people how to treat you. For a long time I struggled with setting boundaries. I'd tolerate behavior that made me uncomfortable or unhappy, thinking it was easier to go along than to address it. But over time I realized that by staying silent, I was teaching people that this treatment was acceptable. I was, in a way, setting the standard for how they interacted with me. I learned that if I wanted respect and kindness from others, I had to set clear boundaries and communicate them. Setting boundaries didn't come naturally. At first, it felt confrontational, but I quickly realized that boundaries are actually an act of self-respect. When I started speaking up, people began to understand my limits and adjust their behavior. I didn't have to be harsh or demanding. I simply had to be honest about what I needed and what was or wasn't okay. By teaching others how I wanted to be treated, I created healthier, more respectful relationships. Now, I'm intentional about showing others how to treat me. I communicate openly and stand by my boundaries. This practice has improved my relationships and brought a sense of peace and balance to my life. I've learned that when I set the standard, people respect it, and those who don't simply aren't meant to be in my life. Teaching others how to treat me has been empowering. It's a way of honoring my own worth and creating an environment where I feel respected, valued, and supported. 38. When things get easy, go harder. For a long time, I thought reaching a level of comfort was a sign that I could ease up and coast along. When things started feeling easier, I'd let myself relax, thinking I'd already done the hard work. But I noticed that whenever I got too comfortable, I'd start to feel stagnant and unfulfilled. The progress I'd made would plateau, and I'd begin to lose the momentum that had brought me this far in the first place. Then, I learned the value of pushing myself precisely when things started to feel easy. I realized that ease is an opportunity, not a destination. When I'm not facing immediate challenges, I have the mental space to set higher goals, build new skills, or take on projects I'd previously avoided. Now, when things start to feel comfortable, I see it as a cue to up the ante. I push myself to go a little harder, to raise the bar on my own expectations. Embracing this mindset has kept me growing and improving. I no longer view comfort as a stopping point, but as a foundation from which I can reach new heights. When I challenge myself in times of ease, I stay engaged, motivated, and excited about my journey. This approach has helped me make consistent progress, and it's taught me that growth happens when I push my limits, even and especially when things feel easy. 39. Find mentors, not idols. I used to admire people from afar, seeing them as larger-than-life figures whose achievements I could only hope to emulate. I idolized them, thinking that if I could somehow be like them, I'd find success. But over time, I realized that idolizing people created a sense of distance, almost like putting them on a pedestal. I couldn't relate to them, and I often felt discouraged by the gap between where I was and where they were. Then, I learned the difference between idols and mentors. Unlike idols, mentors are people who are willing to share their journey with me, to offer guidance and encouragement. Instead of just admiring them from a distance, I could actually learn from their experiences and insights. Mentors made me feel that success was achievable because they had been where I was and understood the steps to move forward. Building real connections with mentors gave me access to practical advice, support, and a sense of accountability. Now, I seek mentors instead of idols. I look for people who are accessible, who are willing to share their wisdom, and who genuinely want to see me grow. Having mentors has made my journey feel more tangible and less intimidating. I no longer feel the need to idolize. Instead, I feel empowered by the knowledge and encouragement my mentors provide. Finding mentors has taught me that success is a shared path, and with the right guidance I can reach goals I once thought were out of reach. 40. Look for problems to solve. I used to avoid problems, seeing them as inconveniences or obstacles that stood in my way. If something seemed complicated, I'd often sidestep it, thinking that avoiding it would make my life easier. But eventually, I realized that every problem I encountered had a hidden opportunity within it, a chance to learn, grow, and create something valuable. I began to see that solving problems wasn't a burden. It was a pathway to meaningful progress. Once I adopted this mindset, I actively started looking for problems to solve, both in my personal life and in my work. I began to ask, how can I make this better? Or, what solutions could create a positive impact? This approach not only made me more proactive, but also helped me discover talents and strengths I didn't know I had. Each problem I solved boosted my confidence and expanded my capabilities. Now, I view problems as opportunities for growth and contribution. I'm no longer afraid of challenges or setbacks. I welcome them as chances to make a difference and build my skills. This mindset has made my life more fulfilling and has shown me that the more problems I solve, the more capable I become. Looking for problems to solve has taught me that life's challenges are not obstacles, but invitations to create, learn, and lead. 41. Confidence comes from integrity. For a long time, I thought confidence was something I could gain from external achievements, winning an award, getting recognition, or receiving praise. But while these moments felt good, the confidence they brought was often fleeting. I realized that true confidence didn't come from how others viewed me. It came from how I viewed myself, and that self-respect was built on one thing: integrity. Integrity means keeping the promises I make to myself, even when no one is watching. It's about doing what I say I'll do, following through on my goals, and acting in line with my values. When I uphold my own standards, I feel a quiet sense of pride that no one can take away. There's something incredibly grounding about knowing that I can trust myself, that I'm someone who does what they say they will. This inner trust is the foundation of true confidence. Now, I focus less on external validation and more on aligning my actions with my values. I know that as long as I'm acting with integrity, I can be proud of myself, no matter the outcome. This shift has given me a lasting confidence that doesn't depend on others' opinions or approval. By living in alignment with my values, I've built a confidence rooted in self-respect, and it's one of the most empowering transformations I've ever experienced. 42. Embrace imperfect beginnings. For the longest time, I hesitated to start anything unless I felt completely prepared. I'd wait until everything was perfectly lined up: the timing, the resources, the knowledge. But the perfect moment rarely came, and I'd end up delaying my dreams and goals indefinitely. I finally realized that waiting for perfection was just a form of procrastination, and if I wanted to make progress, I had to be willing to start messy and imperfectly. Starting before I felt ready was uncomfortable, but it was also liberating. I learned that I didn't need to have everything figured out to make meaningful progress. Each small step taught me something new, and I adjusted along the way. By embracing imperfection, I gave myself permission to grow and learn in real time, without the pressure of getting it all right immediately. Now I approach new ventures with a spirit of curiosity and openness. I know I can refine and improve as I go, but the important thing is to start. Embracing imperfect beginnings has taught me that progress, not perfection, is what truly moves me forward. This mindset shift has opened doors I'd previously kept shut, and I'm grateful for the freedom to pursue my dreams without waiting for everything to be just right. 43. People often test you right before breakthroughs. There have been times when, just as I was on the verge of a breakthrough, I'd face unexpected challenges. People would question my choices, criticize my progress, or test my resolve in ways that made me doubt myself. It felt like the universe was throwing obstacles in my path, right when I was closest to reaching my goal. But over time, I came to realize that these tests weren't setbacks. They were signals that I was about to level up. Now, whenever I'm met with resistance or doubt, I take it as a sign that I'm on the right path. I remind myself that breakthroughs often come after moments of intense challenge, and these tests are there to help me grow stronger and more resilient. Instead of backing down, I lean into the discomfort, knowing that on the other side is the progress I've been working toward. This perspective has changed how I handle adversity. When I feel tested, I don't see it as a reason to quit. I see it as proof that I'm pushing beyond my comfort zone. Embracing these tests has allowed me to break through barriers I once thought were impossible. I've learned that the greatest rewards often come after the hardest challenges, and I'm willing to stay the course, knowing that my perseverance will pay off. 44. Set boundaries for self-respect. Setting boundaries used to feel difficult, even selfish. I worried about disappointing people or coming across as rude. But as I continued to put others' needs before my own, I realized that I was losing respect for myself. I was constantly drained, overcommitted, and feeling resentful. I finally understood that setting boundaries wasn't about pushing people away. It was about valuing my own time, energy, and well-being. When I started setting boundaries, it felt uncomfortable at first, but I quickly saw the benefits. I had more time and energy to focus on the things that mattered to me, and I felt a renewed sense of self-respect. I realized that when I respected my own limits, others respected them too. Setting boundaries became a way of honoring myself, showing that my needs and priorities were important. Now, I view boundaries as a vital part of self-care. They're not barriers. They're guidelines that help me protect my peace and maintain healthy relationships. I've learned that self-respect begins with respecting my own limits and communicating them clearly. By setting boundaries, I'm able to show up more fully in my life, knowing that I'm honoring my own worth. 45. Gratitude and ambition can coexist. For a while, I thought that being grateful for what I had meant I shouldn't want more. I'd feel guilty for having big dreams and ambitions, thinking it was somehow a sign of dissatisfaction. But I eventually learned that gratitude and ambition aren't opposites, they're partners. I can appreciate everything I have while still striving for more. Practicing gratitude has taught me to find joy in the present, to value my journey, and to celebrate my achievements. But my ambitions keep me excited for the future and motivated to grow. I've learned that being grateful for where I am doesn't mean I have to stop aiming higher. Gratitude gives me a strong foundation, and ambition pushes me forward. Together, they create a balanced mindset where I'm both content and driven. Now, I embrace both gratitude and ambition as essential parts of my life. I wake up grateful for the opportunities I've been given, and I go to bed with dreams of what I can create next. This combination has allowed me to enjoy the present without losing sight of my future goals. I've found that gratitude and ambition can coexist harmoniously, each fueling the other in a way that keeps me grounded, fulfilled, and inspired. 46. Treat others how you want to be treated. This simple principle has been a guiding light in my relationships. Whenever I'm in a challenging situation, I remind myself to treat others the way I'd want to be treated. It's easy to react out of frustration or impatience, but I know that kindness, respect, and empathy are values I hold dear, and I try to live by them every day. This approach has helped me build stronger connections and handle conflicts with grace. When I put myself in others' shoes, I find that I'm more understanding and compassionate. I've learned that a small gesture of kindness can make a big difference, and treating others with respect often brings out the best in them too. By living this principle, I not only uplift others but also create an environment where positivity and mutual respect thrive. Now, treating others as I'd want to be treated isn't just a rule, it's a way of life. It reminds me to approach every interaction with empathy and integrity. This mindset has enriched my relationships and brought a sense of harmony and fulfillment to my life. I believe that by embodying the values I admire, I can make a positive impact on the people around me and build a life centered on love and respect. 47. If you keep running into bad people, look inward. There was a time when I felt like I kept attracting negativity in my life. Difficult co-workers, friends who weren't supportive, or situations that felt toxic. I'd wonder why I was surrounded by such energy, assuming it was just bad luck. But after some reflection, I realized that there might be a deeper reason behind these recurring encounters. Perhaps it wasn't just about the people around me. Maybe there was something within me that needed attention. Looking inward was challenging, but it opened my eyes. I began examining my own beliefs, behaviors, and boundaries. I noticed patterns where I allowed certain treatment or ignored red flags. I realized that my own mindset and actions were playing a role in the kind of people and situations I was attracting. When I started making shifts, valuing myself more, setting healthier boundaries, and being mindful of my energy, the quality of my relationships and encounters improved. Now, whenever I feel like I'm surrounded by negativity, I take a step back and reflect on my own role. I ask myself if there's anything I need to adjust in my mindset or behavior. This self-awareness has transformed my relationships and has taught me that the energy I put out often mirrors what comes back to me. By looking inward and making positive changes, I've created a more supportive and uplifting environment around me. 48. Waiting for a sign is a sign. I used to wait for the perfect moment to make a decision or take a big step. I'd tell myself that I needed a clear sign from the universe before moving forward. But what I didn't realize was that waiting for a sign was, in itself, a sign. It was a sign that I was already curious, already considering the change, and perhaps just holding back out of fear or doubt. One day, I decided to interpret my desire for a sign as a signal to act. I stopped waiting for external validation and began trusting my own instincts. If I was looking for a sign to pursue a dream or make a life change, I took it as a sign that I was ready to explore it. This shift in perspective freed me from overthinking and gave me the courage to start. I realized that I didn't need the universe to spell things out for me. I could trust myself to make decisions. Now, whenever I feel that desire for a sign, I treat it as my inner voice giving me a gentle nudge. I trust that if I'm already thinking about a change, it's worth exploring. This approach has helped me take ownership of my choices and has given me the freedom to move forward with confidence. I've learned that the sign I'm looking for is often already within me, waiting for me to listen and take action. 49. Admit when you're in the wrong place. For a long time I stayed in situations, jobs, friendships, even routines that didn't feel right. I'd convince myself that things would improve or that I just needed to push through. But deep down, I knew when something wasn't a good fit. It was uncomfortable to admit that I might be in the wrong place because it felt like failure. I worried about the judgment or the unknown of what might come next. Eventually, I realized that staying in the wrong place was costing me more than the discomfort of change ever could. It was holding me back from growth, joy, and fulfillment. Admitting that something isn't right doesn't mean I've failed. It simply means I'm making space for what truly aligns with me. Now, I listen to my instincts more closely. When I feel uneasy or out of sync, I take it seriously and consider if it's time to move on. Making the choice to leave the wrong place has empowered me. I no longer see it as a setback, but as an act of courage and self-respect. By being honest with myself, I've been able to find environments and relationships that genuinely support me. Admitting when I'm in the wrong place has taught me that it's okay to change direction and that letting go is often the first step toward finding where I truly belong. 50. Build a weekly routine of reflection. Life can get so busy that it's easy to go through the motions without stopping to think about where I'm headed. I used to do this, just moving from one task to the next, checking off to-dos without taking the time to reflect. But then I realized that without reflection, I wasn't learning from my experiences or adjusting my goals. I needed a way to check in with myself and make sure I was living intentionally. So, I decided to create a weekly reflection routine. Every Sunday, I take a little time to review my week, what went well, what I learned, and where I want to improve. I also set intentions for the week ahead, aligning my actions with my long-term goals. This simple habit has brought so much clarity and purpose to my life. Instead of just reacting to circumstances, I feel more in control, more focused, and more aware of my progress. Now, this weekly routine is something I look forward to. It grounds me, gives me perspective, and reminds me of my priorities. Building a routine of reflection has helped me grow, stay on track, and live a life that feels authentic and meaningful. By taking the time to look inward each week, I'm able to stay aligned with my values and continue moving toward the life I truly want. Reflection has become a powerful tool for growth, and I'm grateful for the clarity and intention it brings to my journey. These 50 insights are more than just advice. They're life lessons that can shape the way you approach everything, from relationships to personal growth. Remember, real change doesn't happen overnight, but by embracing these truths, you're already taking the first steps towards a more fulfilling life. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which insight resonated with you the most? Or do you have a personal takeaway that's helped you along your journey? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read each one, and I'd love to connect with you there. If you found value in this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe for more insights that can guide you on your path to growth. And if you know someone who could benefit from these lessons, go ahead and share this video with them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.